In May 2025, 2v8 came back once again, and I got myself a front row seat. I just played Survivor again to help with the insane queue times, and I still had a blast. I don't understand why everyone isn't as hyped on this mode as I am, although spending blood points is really becoming a chore. That new feature coming with Springtrap can't come soon enough. For 2v8 version 4, there have been very few changes since the Resident Evil version 3, so my old videos are still relevant. Except there are no Resident Evil herbs this time around, and this is a positive because they did make the game a little too easy for the Survivor side. Instead, we have the Void Crystals, which are the smoke bombs which we've seen in other game modes. I really like them, but do they have to be in chests? It means less items, and I really love items. I love stealing, but the crystals are limited items, so you can't keep them if you escape with them. There's also this new animation for killers caging survivors, and it looks great. In version 2, I said hooking on mid-air looked amateurish, but they've really fixed that now. If only they could fix that Wesker bug though. That's really rough. New boys this time around are the Oni and Ghostface, and the reaction has been very mixed indeed. The former is considered overpowered and the latter underpowered, and the Legion Oni pairing is a match made in hell, and is the most common duo I've gone against, and I have the numbers to back it up. Take some assurance that if you are in a lobby and see a Shadow Killer class, it's not Legion. If someone is running the Shadow, they or their partner are not playing Legion because suppressing the terror radius messes with Feral Frenzy. Although I have seen Legions try to run Shadow. It's embarrassing. I mostly love 2v8 as I've done the previous 3 times, but I still have some proposed changes. My points system idea to help with killer queues gets better with each iteration, and I think a bot in Survivor 8's position would help immensely. Only one bot though. It's programmed to be better when the survivors are doing badly, and has shouldered the burden to give human players more lives. It's also programmed to be the last survivor to leave, to help humans still in the trial all the more. I'm also advocating some buffs to the Survivor side in exchange for buffs for the weakest 4 killers, Trapper, Slinger, Nemesis and Ghostface. I hope these suggestions are reasonable. 1. I think time in the cage should be greatly lengthened if there is a killer within 40 meters. 2. The HUD should give a visual notification if there isn't another survivor within 40 meters of the cage. Bystander apathy has been the death of many players. There should also be a visual and audio warning when a caged survivor is about to hit second stage or even just die in the second stage. Get me off the hook! 4. Finally, I think the borrowed time endurance effect from being uncaged should last a few seconds longer to dull any possible tunneling. These 4 anti-frustration buffs in exchange for the 4 weaker killers to have whatever they want, within reason of course. I'll also float the idea that the lobby time should be reduced to 30 seconds from 60. I mean, you don't need that much time to choose one of 4 classes, and or a noise notification for the last person that hasn't readied up. I think that should be in the base game as well. Something like this. I also want a moment to praise the catch-up mechanic. I'm a big fan of it, and it goes a long way to mitigate feelings of hopelessness for, presumably, both sides. And now I have a list of general advice for 2v8. My super duper rule that will guarantee victory for you and your friends is thus: do gens. That's it. Hold M1 beside those engine thingies and do the QTE. Just do it. There often feels like such a reluctance to repair them. It's how we win and escape. Fix them. The match should not last longer than 11 minutes. If it does, your team sucks. And when it comes to doing gens, do any gen. Just do the closest one. The corner gens are fine and less risky. There are 14 generators in the trial, of which 8 need to be activated. The killer duo is not going to be able to hold the last 6 gens very effectively. The match is just too chaotic for that kind of coordinated strategy from the killer side. Never say never, of course. I'm sure some dreadful duos have pulled it off, but it's statistically unlikely. Perhaps if the survivor side is really unlucky and the final 6 gens are all really close to each other, and the survivor team has already lost 2 to 4 of their teammates, but even in situations like that you can pressure a gen and run to the nearby light zone, that is a place where the gens have already been completed, if a killer shows up. Another bit of advice is do your job. I know I said it shouldn't take 60 seconds to choose your class, but what class you do choose should inform how you play. Guide, prioritise gens and don't do saves even at medium range. Medic, prioritise saves even at long range and only do gens when everything is steady. Escapists and scouts play a sort of midfield game. Other advice includes don't greed the good pallets. There are plenty of them and the scouts will eagerly rebuild them anyway. I'd also recommend trying to plunder a medkit so you have the option of healing yourself should you need it. Doubly useful if you're a medic. Finally, use your charge ability now. Don't worry about saving it, just use it willy-nilly. It recharges quicker than you might think, and upon unhooks it gets a little boost. This is particularly true of medics. But one thing I'm still undecided on is exit gates. Should you open them or let someone else open them? I actually think you should be a bit selfish here because you are very vulnerable when opening the gate. It depends on whether or not you're on death hook. One good thing about bots is they always open the gates so you can use them as a meat shield. And speaking of bots, they're good. They're better than the average player. It reached a point where I got happy if someone disconnected, thus guaranteeing there will always be someone to go for the save or otherwise do gens. Although mixed in chase, the bot's ability to do these things makes them better than average players and thus more likely to increase your chances of survival. Besides, if some crybaby DCs because he got double tapped, you'd be much better off with a bot anyway. Not that getting double tapped doesn't hurt, but suck it up. So yeah, bots are fine. This is part of a series I call 2v8 Counterintuitive. In 1v4, bots are really not very good, but in the larger maps and larger population of 2v8, bots can do their simple job in the background easier. But the biggest 2v8 counterintuitive point is that Raccoon City Police Station is amazing. It reached a point where I was excited to play on this map. Not so happy if I was a scout, but still. I'll admit I was dead wrong about RCP, and I loved this bloated mess of a map from the survivor side. I still feel bad for the killers that ran Billy or Huntress, but fuck 'em. And I have some advice for RCP. Focus on the West Wing and ignore the East Wing. The West Wing has stronger pallets overall and is less killer friendly, so your survival rate is higher in the West Wing. The West Wing has the library, the STARS office and the laundromat/linen room and its loop. The East Wing has the rooftop, the art room and the outside area. The West Wing also has the locker room, the evidence room loop, the record room loop, or confiscated items room as it's called. The West Wing just has tighter corridors and fewer options for coordinated killer plays. Do all the gens in the West Wing and create a huge and safe light zone where killers won't patrol and cages will be sent safely. Then just contest the central gens, and if a killer challenges you, run to the light zone West Wing where the killer typically won't follow. The killer duo cannot hold the entire East Wing and the central generators over multiple floors and awkward rooms to patrol. It can't be done. Do I have advice for the 4 classes? I hear no one ask. Well, I do, but not really for the escapist. I can't think of anything for them that isn't obvious. The guide, meanwhile, I have a lot to say on. I noticed my mind become more strategic when playing as this class. I'd map the level in my head to determine the best gens to make decent light zones. And in another 2v8 counterintuitive point, the deja vu effect of seeing the closest 4 gens isn't telling you what gens to focus on, but which gens to avoid. These 4 will see more patrolling from the killers. And I partially advocate a cowardly approach for the guide, because I'm convinced many killers prioritise killing guides. Over and over again my most epic chases were while playing as the guide, and it simply can't be a coincidence. Killers want to slow the gen rush, and they know guides don't have a variant of Windows or Iron Will or Reverse Babysitter, or an insta healing or quick and quiet variant, so guides are easier targets. So for the survivors on the team, they really need to back up the guides. Far too many times I used my Prove Thyself Repair Speed boost when no one was around, and it'll recharge before anyone else shows up. Even more irritating is if you've unlocked the Specialist Repair boost effect after being caged once. Upon completing a generator, there's no one around to give the guide the stacks. So other players should heed the guide, especially via the Better Together effect, and then follow the guide to the next gen they want to do. Between this and the fact that killers see guides as priority targets, this makes guides the leaders. Respect them. But one last caveat, I'm sure the back pocket Prove Thyself Repair Speed boost effect doesn't stack with other instances of itself. They should be activated sequentially. Now the medic became my favourite class, and despite Scout also having a high survival rate, I'm still convinced the medic is the strongest because the medic ensures multiple survivors will escape. In the same vein as the caveat above, the insta-heal effect does not work if you or the target is suffering from the deep wound status effect. Mend first, then use the aura of effect heal. And with general rules, I think these apply to non-medics as well, but for medics these rules are essential. Uncage multiple survivors first, then start healing them. You'll ultimately save more time this way. When 3 survivors are in distress, drop everything and save them. If you don't, you'll be gambling a critical snowball from the killer's side. If there are 3 members of your team caged or slugged, the implication is that bystander apathy has ensured that no one has taken the initiative. And as a medic, healing is your job. But speaking of bystander apathy, where no one helps on the assumption that someone else will and thus condemning the victim, always go for the first survivor downed. Preempt the bystander apathy and get that first save. The first down near the start of the game might generate a cage far away and isolated from everyone else. The caged teammate might go to second stage in the first quarter of the match. This is something everyone should watch out for, but especially medics. The Scout was a popular choice in both Resident Evil version 3 and Goni version 4. There were many instances where I'd join a lobby intending to play as Scout only to meet with 4 already waiting. I think Scout was initially popular because the class was effective against Wesker, and that's one of the reasons Wesker likes the Shadow Killer class. If you're undetectable, your aura can't be revealed. But I did wonder, do the Scouts waste time? How many lost seconds that should be spent repairing gens are used to go to a pallet spot, revive the pallet, and then go back? There's the possibility that pallet will never be used anyway, but many times I did reuse the same pallet against killers. It's hard to believe the Scout didn't have this ability in the very first 2v8. And that's all the extra advice I have. Despite my average survival rate, I still feel the survivor side of 2v8 is a little too easy. And yes, I kept track of my survival rate. I'll do a whole video of stats and see if anyone watches that. See you then.